welcome back, Lynn.
Hello.
Great to have you both. Right, so we're gonna have some. Do we have some questions for our wonderful guests, Satya?
Yes, we do. First, I have some questions for. Lynn. So the first question for Lynn is, you design these amazing experiences that invite others to be playful. Where do you go for your daily dose of playfulness? And this was a question from Mona.
Yeah, thanks, Mona. You could have just asked me that at work, no? No, it's a great question. Thank you. Yeah, do you know, I found that really challenging during the pandemic, and I loved Rob's talk actually, and hearing what he was saying about how his response to loss, you know, but also the effects of the pandemic. So thank you so much for sharing that, Rob. But yeah, I think for me, I used to. It used to be chalk, so I had this whole project for a while where I had chalk and I would do all these sort of silly things in the street, and it just made me be playful every day, even when I didn't feel like it, and that was really super helpful. But I think during the pandemic it then became about, you know, with losing childcare and stuff, it became about my 3-year-old and actually looking at playfulness in a different way, because I've got a PhD in play and I'm a doctor in play. But actually I've been looking at adults playing, and I've forgotten the kind of joy and the freedom of play as a child. And actually it's really hard. It's really hard to role play and to really just let yourself go like a small child can be. So I think she's like my constant inspiration and constant challenge, actually, in a good way, you know, to keep me on my toes. But I still always almost have chalk on me too, just in case.
Well, that's great. Thanks for sharing, Lynn. Now I have a question for Rob. So it is a question from Andrew. And the question is it difficult to remove yourself from or hand over a project that started off with your personal experience?
Yeah, that's a great question. It is in some regard, but I think like I have such a great team. Like the team at Hyperluminal are just amazing, and I love working with them, and I think like I trust them an awful lot. And you know, once you get to a point where you hand off, like, you know, it's just going to be better. It's always going to get better no matter what they do to it. So, you know, you don't worry about that as much because it's in safe hands, you know. So I think that's important. And then, like I said, like the personal element is still there. You know, I still feel it, and I think other people feel it, even though they don't necessarily know specifically what it is or where it came from. There's something that they recognize. So yeah, I think that for me is kind of what matters really at the end, right?
Well, thanks for answering. Now I have another question for Lynn. So the question is, were there any challenging logistical problems from building games outside that you did not expect? And as I said, I guess the lovely Dundee weather did not help.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I think we were really lucky with the V&A project in that we installed in the summer. So it was August, and we got a good week and a good run at it. But we were meant to repaint it and to make improvements and things, and we tried to set that up through December, January, February, and yeah, no, the weather was kind of against us. So that has been challenging. Wind as well with spray paint it wasn't something that I thought about, and I found that Mona and I became sort of experts in paint and how paint performs under weather and how long paint lasts and how environmentally friendly paint is. And Mona had a long conversation with the kind of local water board as well about all these kinds of things. But on the Whale Song Park project, there's been like huge challenges. I've been so lucky that there's such a great team at Arcadia. Jerry and Tom have been total lifesavers, because they have been doing all the cables getting pulled through and making sure that everything's sort of watertight and everything, like all the laser cut podiums and stuff that were made by Metaltech, making sure all the buttons sit inside and that everything's sort of as secure as humanly possible. But I'm a bit nervous about frost, which is again something that I never used to think about. So I think that over the weekend I might be having some sleepless nights, sort of like, is the screens, are they going to be okay? Or, you know, because it's always like that. I think when you launch any new project, I'm sure it's the same in the digital world. Like Rob probably experiences this, when something goes live and bugs start coming through, it's hard to switch off. But yeah, my stuff doesn't get bugs. I just have to walk down and have a look and see. So fingers crossed. But yeah, no, I've learned a lot about things that I never thought I would need to know about. in terms of like electrical ratings and paint kinds and all these sorts of things. But I think that's what's really exciting about. I think if it hadn't been for the pandemic, I probably still would have just been messing about with wee balance boards and projectors. So it's really nice that, you know, I'm out in the world doing things and having really neat conversations, actually, because when you're doing stuff out in public space, you happen upon lots of diverse people and have lots of great conversations.
Well, thanks for your answer. Hopefully the screens and the whale herself will not be too cold. So unfortunately, we only have time for one extra question. So and this is for Rob. The question is, what are your thoughts on putting efforts to make a game that is shareable on Twitter and adding features / visuals that help with that without having that influence the vision of the game?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think that's such a cool idea. I wonder how you would kind of manage the scope and the expectation there, because there would be so many different levels of understanding of game development, from people that know next to nothing and just want to see a cool idea to maybe, you know, expert developers. So yeah, that would be a real challenge. But I mean, I've never been a big social media person. I've always shied away from it until Cloud Jumper, and that was the project that really like got me on Twitter and kind of engaging. And I realized how much I actually really enjoy it, because people, when they get it and they want to be involved and they start suggesting ideas, it's really, really cool. And you get such things that you wouldn't have expected coming through. So yeah, kind of communal development thing would be a great idea. I wouldn't want to be the producer. Actually, one of our producers from Hyperluminal is here in the call. So Niamh, that's your challenge. How do we organize a Twitter-based game development? That's a new challenge for her.
Well, thank you for the insights. Hopefully, it will help other game developers that are in the chat tonight.
Thank you, Rob and Lynn, and thank you to the audience for coming through with some really great questions. So, so it's time to say goodbye to Rob and Lynn. Please do stay with us in the stream, guys. Enjoy it, and maybe join the Biome Gallery too. Thank you, and Safi, we'll see you soon as well. Okay, for the next.
Bye.
Thank you for
thanks
having
so much,
me.
everyone.
Thanks.
See ya.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye bye. That was awesome. Yeah, feedback loops, especially when you bring it to the you know, audience through Twitter, is not easy to kind of handle. I actually had a sneak peek into the Biome Gallery earlier, and it was a ruckus party. There was like so many people in there. It was awesome.
Nice.
The thing is, if they're in the Biome Gallery, it makes it harder to ask questions. So they can maybe take turns and make sure they do that. Right. Who's our next guests, Gino?